All right. So we are live. I'm going to turn on Facebook and YouTube. And perfect. Okay, Central Florida, welcome back to another episode of the Central Florida Connects podcast. I'm your host and Central Florida Realtor, James Turner, and we have an awesome guest today. I'm super excited. I know this episode is going to be amazing. So you may have heard him on Excel 106.7 during the morning show, but Charlie, welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me. My name is Charlie Gautier. I run Defensive Training Solutions. I've been in law enforcement since I was 18 years old. Left law enforcement to try different pastures, and somehow I found shooting sports. I started shooting sports in 2007, and it was just something that I did as a hobby. It was just fun to get away from the wife and kids and go shoot, for a weekend. Somehow I got serious a little bit in around 2013. 2014, I won ITPA Nationals, and everything just pretty much snowballed from there. Became a pro competition shooter, became sponsored by several companies. Right now I'm sponsored by 11 companies. And now I teach and compete as much as I can. It's been a fun road, and I'm having a blast while I ride this train.
Yeah, I was looking at your website, and you have some awards, like a ton. Yeah. Not to mention probably the coolest background I've ever seen. I call it the toys and so yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to start with first, how was the Excel experience? How was that like? And what made you want to call in? Like, did someone tell you to do it, or did you just listen to the show and you were like, hey, I should call in, or what was that like?
Well, to be honest, nowadays marketing is tough, especially for the firearms industry, especially because Facebook doesn't allow anything that has the word firearms on it. So I've been having all these influx from people from up north moving to Florida. And the pandemic, we have about 3 million new gun owners in a matter of a year. And all these people are buying guns, firearms, rifles, pistols, and they don't know how to use them.
Right.
And I've been trying to get my word out there just to, let people know that firearms are just a tool. Like any other tool, you have to be proficient with it in order for that tool to be, good for you. And most people have the misunderstanding that once you buy a firearm, you're safe. And that's not the case. When you decide you want to get a concealed weapons permit and you want to purchase a firearm, now every situation that you're involved is, that you get yourself into, there's a firearm involved because you are bringing the firearm into the fight.
Yeah, okay. I can see
so that. And that's something that I learned, in law enforcement in my early years. My sergeant used to tell me, every situation you are on, there's a firearm involved. You're bringing the gun into the fight. So, something as simple as not properly holding a firearm it can stop the function of the firearm. Now you have a firearm that doesn't work and you don't know how to make it work again. So when I heard 106.7, talk about, promote your business, I wanted to get my word out there. Like, listen, I'm here. I'm willing to help you out. I train from law enforcement to kids to 85-year-old ladies that are just buying firearms for the first time. It's been very interesting in the last few years.
Yeah, I was listening to the show and I heard you talking and everything, and I was like, man, this guy sounds like a straight up badass, like, but I tried to message them because I didn't get your last name and I was driving, so I couldn't like look up your social and stuff. So I was trying to look up like different things and trying to find you. I messaged the show, but they didn't respond. And I have a friend that knows a friend of the show. And so I was trying to get her to get me your information, because I'm like, I have to get this guy on the show. Like, this is awesome. So I have so many questions. I don't even know. Let's see where to start here. But I guess walk me through, like, So somebody wants to take and get a gun, or they want to go through the course and get their license. Do they need a license to have a gun? Or
No, owning a firearm is a constitutional right.
okay.
So you're born with it in the United States. Now, carrying a firearm is a privilege, just like any other driver's license for any state. So you can purchase a firearm, you can have it in your possession in your home. You don't need nothing more than be a Florida resident and have a driver's license.
Now, I don't need a license to go purchase it, though?
No.
Oh,
you don't need a license to purchase a firearm instead of Florida. Some states you do, Florida you do not.
Okay.
You can have it in your home or your vehicle. People have the misconception that there's like a 3-step rule, or the gun has to be unloaded in the vehicle. No, that's not the case. The gun has to be in a secure holster. It can be loaded. Unloaded gun doesn't really work. The Constitution of the United States extends that privilege from your home to your vehicle, because the Supreme Court established years ago that you spend just as much time in your vehicle as you do in your home. So the Castle Doctrine that applies to your property applies for your vehicle as well. Now, if you want to carry that firearm in public places, like just walking around, you do need a license. The state of Florida requires you to take a concealed weapons course by a certified instructor, somebody like me, or somebody that is certified as well. Once you obtain that certificate, you go to the Department of Agriculture and you apply for the license. It can take anywhere from 30 days to 90 days. During the pandemic, it was taking up to 9 months for somebody to get their permit.
Wow. Do you think that's because not as many workers, or more people were afraid and was applying?
People were applying like crazy for firearms. I have missionaries that call me, people that never thought they were going to purchase a firearm. Right. People realized during the pandemic how vulnerable we are. Yeah. You can't depend on the government at all times. So everybody, panicked, and everybody started buying firearms and ammunition, and everybody started applying for the permit at the same time. So that created a bottleneck in Tallahassee, the Department of Agriculture, and processing the licenses. Sure. Right now, it's an average about 3 to 4 months to obtain one. So I tell everybody, as soon as you can, just apply for it. It's something that once you apply for it, you already have it. It doesn't bother you. It only costs you $45 every 7 years to renew. And they even send you that paperwork on the mail like 6 months prior. So you don't have to do anything. Just show up, make an appointment at the Department of Agriculture in Orlando. They're located in OBT and Lancaster. Just make an appointment. They do your fingerprint, they do your photos, you present your certificate, your valid Florida ID, and off you go. It's about $112 with the state, plus whatever it costs you to obtain the certificate with somebody like me.
Yeah, I actually went through the course. This was, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. And I never ended up purchasing a gun, but I did go through the course. I took the test. I think they had me fire like a couple rounds, or something. It wasn't, it was like a 1-day thing type thing. Mm-hmm. And then I just never ended up purchasing a weapon. And, I don't think I actually ever got the license. I don't know, something happened, but I went through the course, but I don't think I ever got never filed the paperwork and stuff to get the license. And then I was supposed to go actually in the Army. And so when I was trying to figure out what job I wanted to do, I was like, oh, I'm going to do weapons repair. And I thought it would be a cool job because I'd get to basically work with all the different rifles and pistols and whatever weapons, that they had. And my thought process was, if I ever got deployed, shit hit the fan, and, I needed a weapon, I would essentially be trained on every weapon. If I used to work on them, I would at least have a basic understanding of how they work. So that was kind of my thought process, was if I learn how to fix all the weapons, I'll essentially know how to at least use all the different weapons, or be familiar with all the different weapons and use that. But then I ended up finding, I knew, but I couldn't pass the colorblind test. And so they're like, well, you want to be an accountant, or do you want to do housekeeping? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So long story short, I went down to Tampa, passed everything. Everything was great, and then never joined the Army. So, but yeah. So now, if someone gets there, how often do you recommend that like somebody does the like shoots their weapon to stay familiar with it? Is it because I know they say like you want to actively keep using that weapon to keep those skills up. What do you
Yeah,
recommend?
it is a perishable skill. If I take a few months off, just not touching a weapon, if I go to a competition, it takes me about 3 or 4 weeks of constant training just to get back in shape.
Wow.
So most of my students come back to me on a yearly basis and they just get retrained. I keep track of their progress. I keep track of their training and the drills that we did at the prior class. So I keep them on their toes. And I have those clients that come see me, 2 years prior, then they come back 2 years, moving forward, and they don't have any idea what they're doing again. And, I tell them, you're just throwing money out the window. You don't have to come to me every 6 months, but if I give you some tools, you got to practice them. And you don't have to become, religiously like me, practice every week or every other day, but you do have to, if you have 5 minutes to watch TV, you have 5 minutes to dry fire. And I give them all those tools, how to reload properly, how to, have a perfect grip, how to squeeze the trigger, things like that, but people don't realize when things happen, they happen really, really fast. And,
Right.
At that moment, you don't have time to think about what is going to happen. God forbid you ever have to use your firearm to protect you or your family. It's not something that you want to find out that you don't know how to do something at that moment.
Right.
So I do, advise people, it doesn't have to be with me. Just find an instructor that is proficient. People have the misconception also that they go to one of those private ranges that you're shooting on a stall and you're shooting on a piece of paper, but the paper doesn't move. You don't move. And my experience as a law enforcement, when you're shooting somebody, they tend to move a lot faster.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Go figure.
So, you're shooting at a target that is not moving, it's not going anywhere. When I train my students, I train them in open ranges, and everything we do on the move. We do real life scenarios, how to shoot from cover, how to shoot, while retreating, because this is your friend when you have a threat in front of you. So things like that you cannot practice in, places like Shoot Straight or, Orlando Gun Club. And most of the staff they have is kids. Most of them don't have that much experience in either law enforcement or military. Some of them do. People ask me sometimes, hey, what's a good range or a good gun club for me to go? And I really can't recommend anybody, because the only club that we had that had an experienced staff was East Orange Shooting Sports, and they closed a couple of years ago. Shoot Straight, I don't know if you know, but several years ago, there was a wave of people just renting guns and unfortunately, committing harm to themselves at the range.
Yeah. I saw that in the news.
So you go into a range that you don't know who's around. They just rent a gun to anybody, or they do a club and, you pay a membership and you go there. But if you go to those stalls, look around, look to the sides, look at the barriers, look at the ceiling, there's bullet holes everywhere. Those are people that don't have training. They just go and shoot.
That's kind of scary.
It is. You never find me in one of those places. I either teach in Lake Wales in my private property, or I teach in Orlando Central Florida Rifle and Pistol Club.
So is yours like outside or what?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
everything we do outdoors.
So for the moving targets, do you have like volunteers that run by, or?
I've never been able to find a volunteer that does that.
Yeah.
No, we move. Targets don't move. We move.
Okay.
You have a target in front of you. You just don't draw and engage the target. You draw while you're retreating. You're creating space between you and that threat, or you're moving to cover. Things that we can't practice. Draw. Draw is one of the most challenging things when you get into a gunfight. Just getting that perfect grip and getting that gun in play. In a timely
stuck
fashion.
On the holster, or
Yeah, and people, you can't practice that in an indoor ranges. They have so many rules and regulations, and honestly, I don't blame them. We all seen the YouTube videos of people are just doing these crazy things in these ranges.
Yeah.
So back to your question, I tell people just, spend some time. If you have money to buy a firearm, if you have money to purchase ammunition, you take a couple of $100 out, and pay somebody and go take some classes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I'm gonna, because I know some of those guns get super expensive, and I'd want to at least know how to use them and take care of it too, because I know you have to clean them and things, and you're gonna spend that money on the gun, and then I'm sure if you don't clean it, you go to fire it, it's probably gonna jam up or something, and then like you said, a gun with no bullets isn't gonna be very helpful if you need it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that. So the professional shooting thing, I was really intrigued about this. So what made you decide that you wanted to start doing that, and what's that like?
Like, again, it was a hobby. It just snowballed into something bigger than I ever, imagined that it would. I won a big match. I showed up in Shooting USA on the Outdoors channel. They were filming the entire match.
Oh, wow.
Once I came out on national TV and I won that championship, I started getting offers from companies like, hey, try this holster. We're brand new in the market. I want you to try this. And I started getting all this free stuff from everybody. And I started realizing, wait a minute, if I'm getting all this free stuff, then I can promote those companies and I can, get sponsorship by them, because there's so many holsters that you can send me a year. So right. I started making deals with companies, on a one-on-one basis. For example, I got Rudy Project. Rudy Project USA is one of the biggest cycling eye protection and helmet companies in the world. They're based in France. They're a $99 million company a year. So I sat down with them and said, listen, I need shooting classes, what you guys can do for me, and what can I do for you to get your name out there? So I started getting sponsorships here and there. Some companies put me on 1099. Some of the companies just gave me products, like Batman Bullets is one of my main sponsors. They provide me projectiles to make my own ammunition. Because we do make our own ammo for competition, because it's a lot better than what you get off the shelf.
Wait, so you make your own ammo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know.
Yeah, we do. It's like having a high performance car. You get a high performance car and you put 87, octane in your car, it's not going to perform as well. I make ammunition just specific to my firearm. For example, I shoot CCs for competition. They're a company out of Czech Republic, and it's not the same as a Glock. It's a lot heavier slide. It's a lot slower moving back and forth. So I make an ammunition specifically for that round. And making ammunition is like baking a cake. It's a recipe. So you can tweak it up and down. And they do check out velocities in matches.
So there is like rules, like it has to weigh a certain amount, or
it's pretty much by weight and velocity. Like if I'm shooting 115 grain 9mm bullet, the velocity is one, we call it power factors. They measure the weight and the velocity and they come up with these numbers. If I shoot it, for example, I shoot 147 grain 9mm, I gotta be above 850 feet per second. If I'm below that, that means I'm cheating, because the gun is not recoiling as much. So there is
some control there.
Yeah, when you go to a match, they put 6 bullets. When you start, they ask you, give me 6 bullets, and throughout the day you have to stop there and they load those bullets into your firearm. They fire on a chrono and they check out the speed of that ammo.
And then when you're shooting, are you shooting like a pistol, a rifle? What?
All depends on the discipline that I'm practicing.
Okay.
We have
so they have like different competitions.
Yeah, we have 2 gun, which is rifle and pistol.
Okay.
We have 3 gun, which is shotgun, rifle, pistol. We have USPSA, which is pretty much running and gunning. We have IDPA, which stands for International Defensive Pistol Association. It's a lot more technical and more, I don't like to use the word tactical. It's just more technical, more real, a little bit more real life. You got to conceal the weapon. You got to shoot from cover. You can't just, shoot exposed in an area. USPSA is just like the high-speed version of that. It's a lot faster.
Is that kind of like where you see I've seen videos on Facebook where they're basically running, they shoot a target, they run, shoot a target, run, shoot a target. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's
and you have skill challenge that you don't have to move. You just stand and shoot steel. They have a start plate and a stop plate. This, stops with the last red plate that you shoot. We have cowboy. We have so many disciplines that you can just shoot. It's a great sport.
That's awesome. And you said they put it on TV. What channel?
Yeah, Outdoors channel.
Outdoors?
Shooting
Okay.
USA. Shooting USA is a program that a buddy of mine runs, and it has blown up pretty big. Three Gun Nation at one point, they had their own channel. Don't know what happened to that. I'm not that involved in Three Gun. But the Outdoors channel has a lot of competitions, IDPA, USPSA, Cowboy. They're constantly, airing programs and matches that they, follow throughout the US.
Well, that's cool. And so what was your farthest shot? Or what's like a typical like long range shot? How for that, like for the long range stuff, about how far out is the targets when everyone's shooting those?
With pistols, we don't shoot farther than if it's IDPA by the rule book, you can't have anything farther than 25 yards.
Well, like the rifles.
Rifle, all depends on the range that you're at. I've seen some matches in Midwest that they have 500, 600-yard targets.
Wow.
That pretty much you have to shoot and wait a few seconds to see if the RO goes, impact. All depends on where you're shooting at. Here in Florida, we don't have that much property. I think the only one slower that we have is 300. Volusia, I believe it's got about 500 yards. Okeechobee, I think they have 600, but nothing goes farther than that, especially for matches. Now you have PRS, Precision Rifle Series. They're this massive, $10,000 rifles that,
Wow.
those guys shoot up to a mile away.
That's crazy. And that's where you got to like figure out the wind and everything.
Oh yeah, and those guys make those bullets one by one. I have a progressive machine, so I just feed it bullets and just keep cranking, and the bullets come out and done. And they have a tolerance. They go up and down a couple of grains, and it's fine. Those guys, they do hand loads, and every single round has to be the same measurement, same weight, same grain powder. Like everything has to be precise, because anything that you change in that recipe is going to change the velocity of the bullet. And
Wow.
those guys account for holds, they account for rotation of the earth. There's so many factors when you're shooting that low, because you have a target that a bullet that is traveling 3-4 seconds in midair until it hits a target, an impact.
So math class actually has a benefit for something.
Yeah, I hate that one because I gotta do math.
Yeah, I'm taking calculus right now for my bachelor's degree, so I'm mathed out.
Yeah, those guys have pads like real snipers. Like they have their notes, and they check the wind, and they got these gadgets to measure the wind. For every 5 nuts, you gotta put one hole in those little lines that you see on the reticle of the rifle. So they got to account for all that. Even a shot that is over 600 miles, the earth is rotating. Right. So that target is not going to be in the same position a few seconds later. So they got to account for all that. I have mad respect for those guys. Like they do a lot of calculation, a lot of things, a lot of preparations just to shoot 5-6 shots.
Have you played around with sniper rifles, or?
I have several. For me, pistols became more than a hobby. They became work. Now I teach, now I compete. I got that pressure of, I got to perform well. So it stopped being fun. It became a job.
Right. Okay.
Not that I don't like it. I do like it, but it's not like it was before, just me going to the range and blow some steam. So I want to keep my precision rifles just for me to relax. I don't want to get into competitions like that. Maybe when I get a little bit older, I can't run as much. I go into precision rifle series, but for now, I just like what I do. And I like I got a private property in Lake Wales that I just open the bed of my truck, put a mat there, lay it on my truck and just shoot. And
That's
maybe
cool.
I spend 2 hours there and maybe I shoot 20 rounds.
Yeah.
It's just about precision. So for me, that's peaceful. That's my zen area. So
that's
I don't want to
that's your fun toy.
Yeah, I don't want to compete in that.
Yeah.
Not yet, at least.
Gotcha. So what would you say is your favorite fun toy? What would you say? You can only
My
pick one fun toy. What would it be?
my ARs. I love the AR platform. They're so
Yeah.
fun, and you can do so many things with it, from personal defense to long range shooting. They're like Barbies for men. Like you just buy, roller, and you start buying parts for it, and you can build whatever you want out of it.
Yeah.
So
When I was
I love the AR platform.
when I was looking into getting my license or whatever, there was a buddy of mine, and he wanted me to buy an AR, and it had all these attachments and everything. And I was always interested in more of the long range, like precision. Like that's what kind of was more exciting for me to like learn. Of course, if I was to go down that path, I would have a pistol or something for more self-defense. But like kind of like what you said, where sitting on the back of your truck and shooting and then waiting a couple seconds and hearing that dink, like that just
Something fulfilling that you can reach that far out and touch something.
right. Yeah. Which is cool. So I have to ask, how is, what is it like if I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie with you and there's some sniper movie or gun movie or something that has that where you're just like, oh my God, this is not real.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood has. I don't know who are those guys that are advisors for those things. They usually have LAPD cops and listen. I was law enforcement. Just because somebody is law enforcement doesn't mean they're experts in firearms. Most of the cops that I know, they don't even care about firearms. They just have what they issue, and a couple of things here and there. But most Hollywood movies, they're off by a lot. I love seeing those YouTube videos that they have seals and they dissect entire
Yes.
scene, they're right. It's kind of fun, funny sometimes when you see a show that you like,
Hmm.
and you see that they have a red dot backwards on the rifle, and you go like, oh, it's backwards. Like, what is he doing? Like, and nobody caught that.
Right.
And they have supposedly weapons experts that deal with all that stuff for them, and they're never, they're always the best.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And I love those videos too on Facebook where it'll show a scene from a movie or whatever, and then the seal will break down and pause it and be like, okay, this is where this is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
And, so, and you're right. Most people are not going to know, unless they're an instructor or something like you, that they're just going to be watching the movie and stuff. So you started out in law enforcement. Was that here in Florida or?
I started in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
I went to military school, and after that, I started misbehaving a little bit and going the wrong path. And Pops was the one that pushed me into it. He told me, you're going the wrong path. I'm ashamed of you. I'm not proud of you. It's a shame. I'm not proud of you right now. I want you to do something better with your life. And how about the police academy? I told him, dude, there's no way I'm going to be a cop. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And he told me, I'll make you a deal. Give me 2 weeks of academy. If you don't like it, just quit. We'll find something else for you to do. And just so happened that I was group 2, and my second week of the academy was firearms training. So I'm an 18-year-old kid, just finished firearms training. And back then in the academy, once you finish firearms training, they issued you a gun and a badge. So I'm 18 years old. They just gave me a gun and a badge, and I felt like Superman. I came back from that week, and I was like, well, you ready to quit? And I'm like, hell no, they gave me a gun. I want to stay. And everything just evolved from there. I work a bunch of units, a bunch of cool toys. Like, I was all about, getting the best gear and equipment, and I wanted to be in those units that had all that stuff.
So how would you say the police force differs between here and Puerto Rico, or is it fairly similar? Or?
Well, I moved from Puerto Rico to Tampa, and I worked for Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for a couple of years. It's definitely different. it's a different environment. It's different agencies. Puerto Rico is really behind in technology. When I led the force, we didn't even have computers on the cars yet. It's definitely a lot more crime down there. The
Down in
90s
Tampa
was,
or down in Puerto Rico?
well, Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Okay.
Back in the 90s, it was really, really bad. It still is. It's just that in the 90s, we didn't have social media to expose everything that was going on around us. You know, people say crime is increasing. Actually, no, crime is decreasing. It's just that we're more exposed to it now. Back when I was working in Puerto Rico, we had to activate the National Guard to patrol with us. It was just that bad.
Wow.
They didn't have arrest powers, so they had to have 5 of them and 1 of us with them in a Humvee, or 12 hours a day, which was horrible. But it was definitely worse in Puerto Rico. When I remember when I was going to my interview in Hillsborough County, they asked me, how many times have you used your service weapon? And I was like, and they were looking at me like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, like we used to go back to the station to get more ammo and come back.
Wow.
It was that bad back then.
That's crazy. Has it improved any, or?
Nah, it has gotten worse. Now they have less resources. When I was in the force, we were 24,000 strong. We were the second biggest police department per capita in the world, besides NYPD.
Wow.
Right now they have about 7,000 police officers there. Everybody left. Most agencies that are picking up, officers there and bringing them into the States. Hell, right now I think they have like three helicopter pilots for the entire department. Most agencies, Brevard picked up like 2 of them. Asheville, North Carolina, some department of North Carolina picked up like 4 of them. They're just leaving the island. Not enough resources, not enough pay, not good equipment. It's a very unorganized department.
Yeah, I've only been to Puerto Rico once. It was actually on our honeymoon. My parents had a timeshare down there, and it was going to expire. And they're like, "Here, go down to this resort, and you can stay there for a week. It's free." And and I'd never been to Puerto Rico, and so of course we booked it months and months in advance. And so we fly down there for the honeymoon, and we're all excited, and we're going to go zip lining, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it was, I forget what hurricane it was, but some hurricane / tropical storm or something was coming, and the whole island shut down. And the funny thing is in Florida, when there's a hurricane, we party, right? We have hurricane parties. Like, we're so used to it. And so at the resort, there was like this grocery store that was like next door to it, and we would go there and get food and stock up on stuff, but they served liquor there. And so I had already bought probably a couple bottles of liquor, and so I'd bought liquor from this grocery store before. And so I show up one day and I'm like, yeah, I want to get some more liquor. There's a hurricane, I want to have something to do because I can't go zip line and all this. And they're like, La Seca. And I'm like, so I thought they were saying I wasn't old enough. So I'm like trying to show them my ID. I'm like, I bought here before. I'm old enough, and they're like, no, La Seca, La Seca. So I'm like, what does that even mean? And they're like, oh, we don't serve alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, it's a hurricane. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's funny because when there's hurricanes in Puerto Rico, there's 2 places that you see a line. It's liquor stores and projects. Everybody got to go get their drugs.
Yeah.
So you see a big line in the project, just everybody scoring before the hurricane comes through.
Yeah, I never.
You got to understand that, here in Florida, we get a lot more notice for hurricanes.
Right,
when
okay.
Puerto Rico, they got a few days because they're coming out of Africa and just they hit the Caribbean right away.
Right.
You also have a lot of problems there's a lot of poverty in Puerto Rico. So most houses are built out of, solid concrete. So you don't have to worry about, you can have a Cat 5, that's not a problem. But you also have a lot of mountains, you have a lot of rivers. So all that water is going to go somewhere. So you see these rivers just overflowing and just taking everything with them. So they have to be a little more cautious. They have like 3 or 4 dams in Puerto Rico. They're man-made, so they also have to open the doors for the dams as well. So there's a lot of more stuff in Puerto Rico that goes into a hurricane. Plus you have the the low income areas that the houses are just poorly built, no zoning, zinc roofs, and those people, unfortunately, they lose everything for every hurricane.
Yeah, that's what they were saying is, they didn't want people driving and out on the roads and everything. And then also, not drinking and then being out driving, so it made sense. But the funny thing was, it literally was a rainstorm. Like, I remember I did a little Facebook Live. It was literally palm trees blowing. And I'm like, here's this massive storm shutting down the island on my honeymoon. And I mean, like, everything was closed. We went to, I guess, the little plaza in San Juan where all the shops and stuff are. And we walked around there, and like half of them were closed, and it was just raining. I mean, it was like a normal rain day in Florida, so for them to close down everything, and so that was my Puerto Rico experience. So, but but yeah. So let's see, what else do I have? Oh, so I wanted to ask you, and you kind of mentioned it at the very beginning, and I don't even know if the Facebook Live or YouTube is even working, because I put the podcast is live with a professional shooter and I put your name. And when you said that, Facebook doesn't like that, I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have put that. So I don't even know. They might take it down. Who knows? But what's it been like trying to, because I know you film content. I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube. Do you have a big issue with filming that kind of stuff? Like, does a lot of it get flagged or?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Right now, I got a marketing team that is working on my classes, and we have to word things that the algorithm doesn't pick up. For example, I was banned from Marketplace for 2 years.
Wow.
And I try to appeal it just because I posted classes on Marketplace. And they were saying, you can't sell firearms, you can't sell firearms. And I'm like, listen, I'm not selling firearms, I'm selling classes, I'm selling service.
Right.
I'm an LLC company. 4 or 5 years ago, you were able to appeal it, and somebody will actually, talk to you. You exchange communications, and some of the times, they say, oh, okay, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just send us your LLC paperwork and your licenses, and we'll let you go. Now the algorithm just picks you up. Doesn't let you talk to anybody. They say they have these review boards. The review boards don't exist.
They're just all like bots.
Yeah, and Google doesn't work anymore. Google, Yelp, all those things, they don't work. Like, it's not there. What you pay for the money, what you get back, it's not the same thing. So it's been rough. Getting my name out there. Like, for example, TikTok closed my account a couple of days ago. I had maybe like 10 videos of everything was just, it wasn't even gunshots. It was, I cut out the gunshot sounds. I just put music and made videos, and I woke up the next day and page is gone. They didn't tell me why. You violated standards. I'm like, what standard? I didn't do anything.
Right.
Right now, I just scheduled 6 classes for April, May, and November, and June. And I don't even know, I'm waiting for the marketing guys to tell me how to word it and how to, get a link from here and post it here, because it's been hard. Like, anything that has, and it's not just me. Most of my friends are in the firearms industry. They're getting blocked from posts they did in 2014.
Oh my gosh.
They're going back and checking, your pages and see that you posted you're selling a magazine or part. Like, we win stuff in matches sometimes. They have a price table you pick up. Depending on your standing, you pick up something. Sometimes we don't need it, so we sell it. Offset the cost of the match or buy something else. Sometimes we just post stuff. Like, hey, I'm selling this scope for this rifle. Boom, blah. Like, it's been very stressful. Just getting classes out there. A couple of years ago, I was able to, fill a 15 people class, no problem, in a day. Now most of my clients are word of mouth or referrals. People that took a class with me, they fell in love with the class, and they just recommended another buddy, or a doctor recommended another doctor. Like, past weekend, I had a class with, it was 8 neurosurgeons. One of them was my surgeon that took a class with me and recommended me to everybody else. Today, I picked up my truck at the body shop, and the manager has like 8 people for a class. Now they want to come and take class with me. So thank God I have created a name for myself, and I have created a reputation, in Florida, especially around the Lake Nona area. and everybody, trusts me with their training, and I've been able to stay afloat. This is not what I do for a living. I do insurance investigations and inspections, but it is a big chunk of money that I lose every year since all these woke things started happening. And since this administration changed, price of ammo went up. Firearms became less accessible because they weren't available. So it's been, I'm losing about $20,000 to $30,000 a year in the last year or so.
Wow. That's crazy.
Not
Yeah,
that I'm losing, that I'm not making that much money
right.
as I
Yeah.
was before.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. I was watching your videos and it, that's where I wrote the question down. Cause I'm like, he has to have a really difficult time trying to promote these videos and, cause now, but I've seen channels, like there's channels that review guns. I mean, and they actually like review the gun and everything. They're
And they have
shooting.
got him shut down too.
Yeah.
Hitchcock, I forgot his name. He's an old guy that he reviews stuff on YouTube. Nicest guy you can possibly meet. I met him in SHOT Show a few years ago. He had like 15 million people following him or something. Out of the blue, boom, page was gone.
I don't
I
think
do a
that's
lot of
right.
business. Yeah, I do a lot of business with tacticalshed.com. They're based in St. Louis. They have a couple of stores here in Florida now. They had like 5 million followers on Instagram, and out of the blue, bam, page is gone. Like no warnings, no nothing. It's just, you got to understand that all these platforms are run by California kids. They're not, people our age, they don't have different views. They have a one side track mind, that these things are bad and we don't want them. And,
Do you think it's a liability? Like they just want to not have it on their platform so that, if something bad ever happened, that they cannot try to get sued because they were the one that allowed the video? Do you think it's a liability thing?
I think it's just more about their views and their beliefs. Like I said, these are Silicon Valley companies. My sister worked for Facebook, and she sent me a picture one day of a board meeting. I kid you not, the oldest guy there was like 28.
Wow.
There were old kids, and some people have that one track mind when it comes to firearms. I have problems with my family. Most of my family are from Illinois. They're from Chicago. My dad, my brothers, everybody, they're all liberals, and nothing bad against liberals. It's just they don't respect my side of things. They just, guns are bad. We don't want them. Keep those things away from me. My dad, one day when I was a cop, he showed up and visited me one day. It's like, you're not driving with that gun on you. And I'm like, I'm a cop. If you don't want to get on my car, you can walk. That's my family. They're just one track mind that guns are bad. You shouldn't have guns on the streets. Only law enforcement should have guns. And I don't think that's ever going to change. It has changed a little bit in the last couple of years with the pandemic. A lot of people that were against guns, now they're like, oh crap, maybe I should get something.
Well, those are probably the people that had toilet paper during the pandemic. They're like, oh, I got to protect myself because everybody wanted the toilet paper. Yeah. It's, and I see it. I mean, but the thing is, my stance on it is, you can't, if you try to enforce super strict gun laws, right? The criminals are still going to have them. And then the people that are not criminals are not going to have them. And so if you limit it to, if you say, okay, in a perfect world, only law enforcement has guns. Okay, well, in a perfect world, there's also no bad people and criminals, but turn on the news and there's 42 different examples of, of a bad person, so it's like, you can't, because criminals are always going to get it. They're not going to care about the laws, and they're going to find them regardless. And you're not going to have one. And if you need it, I mean, that's my stance on it.
It's different views. I mean, my biggest argument, for example, my brother, he's very anti-gun, very liberal. And he tells me, why you need a gun everywhere you go? And I'm like, because I live a different life than you have. You live in the suburbs, you're protected. You have never encountered, real evil. Me as an 18-year-old cop, working into my 20s, I got used to putting on a uniform, and people wanted to kill me just because I wore a uniform. So I've seen a different side of humanity than he has. And most people are like that. Most people haven't seen how evil people can be. They haven't seen somebody shot, 20 times, or, stabbed, 100 and some times to a point that you can't recognize the body. They have not experienced that. Once they do, their eyes open. And right now, for example, the average police response is 16 to 17 minutes. I've been in fights for my life that lasted a couple of minutes, and people have the misconception that you see MMA fighters fighting, for several rounds. Get into a real struggle for somebody over 60 seconds and tell me if you can survive that. It's very, very, you need a lot of strength and a lot of stamina to keep a fight for that long. For me, your security is your responsibility. Your safety is your, responsibility. It can't fall in the hands of law enforcement. And the Supreme Court already established that law enforcement has no duty to protect you whatsoever. They're not bodyguards. They're not there to protect you. Most law enforcement officers, they're there to investigate after a crime has been committed. So after you got killed, they will show up and they investigate, but I've seen what happened to people that I couldn't get there on time. I heard the screams on the radio. I heard the 911 dispatcher desperation that for me to get there fast enough. And I get there and, it was too late. I've seen that. So I explain that to people. I show videos and I show them cases like, listen, this is what happened, in minute 5. There's a video on YouTube that I love and I show it in my classes. It's a guy, the video is about 15 minutes long. And it's a guy that people are breaking into his house. He's got a firearm. He's not very proficient with it. He had a locked store, in a box somewhere in the closet. He was able to retrieve it. He calls 911. And you can hear his desperation and his fear in his voice. One of the guys broke into his room. He actually shot him. The video lasted 15 minutes and police officers arrived there at minute 12:30. So he was 12 minutes back on his own, just waiting for cops to arrive. Then 911 dispatcher tells him, the police is outside, unload your weapon, make it safe and walk outside. I'm like, no, I'm not leaving my weapon. Have those cops come inside and knock on my door. And this is some of the things that people don't know how to interact with law enforcement. God forbid you have to shoot somebody. You don't know what your rights are. You don't know what you should and should not say. So that's why I tell people you should really take a class, because I tell you, let's say somebody broke into your house and, you defended yourself. Now there's a dead person there. What's the first thing you should do? At that point, you should be able to invoke your rights. Officer, I fear for my life. I defended myself. I'll be more than happy to give you a statement once my attorney is present. Because remember, police officers are not your friends. And this is coming from a police officer because they're there to investigate and report. Anything that you say, they have to put it in a report. Right. As sympathetic as I can be with your case, as much as I say, yeah, he's right, it's not my call. I have to put it in a report and I have to send it to the DA's office. So just something as simple as, just stay quiet, invoke your rights, point out evidence, but don't talk more than you have to. Plus, you're in a shock at that moment. Your adrenaline is pumping up. Yeah. You should be careful what you say at that moment.
And going back to like what you said in the very beginning was that, now a firearm is involved. So it's not just like this guy broke into my house and, I punched him and he's unconscious. Like this is a firearm now. So it's a whole different story.
That once you shoot somebody, you're actually committing a felony. And because you can't shoot people. Right. So you just committed a felony and you are the suspect. So until that case is investigated and is deemed justifiable by the DA's office, you're still the suspect, and you just committed a felony. So you have to be able to protect your rights. And that's something that I tell people, also get an insurance. If you're going to get a firearm, get an insurance for it as well. There's these companies now that they insure you. God forbid you get arrested, they bail you out, they give you attorney fees. Really? An average criminal trial right now costs you about anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 a day. A criminal attorney won't even talk to you before you give him a $10,000 retainer, and that retainer goes out quick. You pay $300 a year for companies like Firearms Coalition or CUSCCA. Those people actually protect you. So they are even insurance right now to protect you as well.
So this is like a separate policy. Like you can get okay, what's the policy called?
Firearms Legal Protection is one of them. I represent that company. There's several companies out there, USCCA. All depends, it's like any other policy. You got to check, what they cover, what they don't cover. I really like Firearms Legal Protection. I'm actually a broker for them. They're one of my sponsors. And I carry that card everywhere I go. God forbid something happens, I can call them. And they provide lawyers just for you to go to an interview, just to go talk to the detectives after God forbid something happens. So they protect you all along the way. I see people buying firearms and they buy a gun, and then they buy another gun, and then they buy another gun, and they buy sights, and they buy lights, and they buy lasers, and they buy this. But none of them spend money on training, and none of them spend money on insurance. And those are very two important things that you need, when you decide to purchase a firearm, along with the safe, and other things. It's just no buying a gun.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even imagine the adrenaline that must be going through someone after, like if they had to shoot someone in their own house, and now you got the police there, you're looked at, like you said, as the suspect. And, if that person is deceased, then it's essentially, it's only your story. Yeah, man, I couldn't even imagine the adrenaline that something like that would be. So, that's crazy. So what are
that's part of training.
What's that?
That's part of training. You gotta learn how to deal. There's two things in a personal defense scenario. The number one is surviving the attack, make it home alive. After is surviving the aftermath. You're gonna have a lot of problems after that. So when I see people, I want to shoot somebody, listen, I don't want to shoot anybody. I carry a gun so nobody kills me, not because I want to kill anybody.
Right.
And I really don't want any of those problems. I try to avoid them as best as I can, because I know what's going after that is a lot of paperwork, a lot of legal aftermath. It's going to be, the emotional stress, the toll that's going to take on you financially, emotionally, to your family. It's a lot of things. It's not just, you shot somebody and this is it.
Do you, or do you know anyone who's possibly been through that, and then they're like, after it's all done, like, what, I'm not even going to carry any firearms. I don't ever want to go through this again. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Would you encourage them to keep the firearm, or, I mean, obviously for protection, but
I'm very pro. Everybody should have at least one firearm, enough ammunition for that firearm, and enough training with that firearm. Pick one, become proficient with it. If you want something else, then pick another one, become proficient with it. Plus, it's a great sport. People have this misconception that, it's all about, being serious. No, I take my kids to the range. My kids have been shooting since they were 6 years old. Also, dad and my son time. I take them to the range and we have a blast. It's a great sport. People, and I remember bringing my girlfriend into a competition, and she was this misconception of gun owners. And I remember at one point she looked at me and she's like, everybody here is nice. And I'm like, what were you expecting? Oh, I was expecting a bunch of rednecks and rough people. And I'm like, listen, that guy is a plastic surgeon. That guy is a neurosurgeon. That guy is a cardiovascular surgeon. He's a pilot. He's a judge. He's an ATC controller. He's a lawyer. It's a very expensive sport. So the people that you surround yourself around, they're all professionals. It's the best friendships that I've made in my life. I made it in this sport. Everybody's nice. It's one of the best environments that I've been in. I wish everybody could experience how much love and friendship is in a competition. We have guys that we interact with each other on Facebook only, but then we meet at nationals. And this guy is from Philippines, that guy's from Brazil, this guy is from Russia, Singapore. We have all these people from all over the world, and we see each other. It's like we didn't see each other for a whole year. And everybody's hugging each other. And hey, what are you doing next match? I got a match in my house. I got invitations to Canary Islands in Spain, to Italy. I can pick any place in the world. I can have a place to stay because I've made so much friendships throughout the world. It's a great sport. It's full of amazing people. I had surgeries a couple of years ago, and I was going through a divorce, and I was going through some personal problems, and I didn't know how to finance my surgeries. These guys got together and paid for all my surgeries.
Wow.
They on their own, they made a GoFund and they pay for my surgeries. They pay for everything. I don't have to worry about anything. I felt so loved by everybody. I didn't know people loved me that much. People, knew me that much. The amount of, help that I got from everybody was overwhelming. And this is the people that I surround myself with. These are the gun owners that the media paints are crazy, far right. No, these are dads. They're sons, their brothers, their friends. They're just average people. They're great people.
Yeah, I was I was when I got my license, I I wanted to take and get a firearm and things. And really the big reason that held me back was, I was single, and I was always afraid that, I would have a party at my house or something, somebody would get a hold of it. Or now that I have a 4-year-old, because you always hear these stories of like a kid accidentally fires a gun, and, maybe I didn't put it in the safe that time. And so it's like, I guess I struggle with, I want the weapon, but I'm just so afraid that I personally will make the mistake of not putting it away or doing something and then having something bad happen. And so to avoid having that bad thing happen, I'm just not having one. But I know that in my mind, I probably should, but I just don't want to put myself in that situation, or having to go through the whole legal thing if anything were to happen, or, something like that. And I think that's my biggest hurdle on why I haven't gotten one. Do you get a lot of people in your class that kind of feel the same? Yeah.
Yeah.
What
And
do you tell them?
I told you the same people I told them. The more you hide guns from kids, the more they're gonna look for them. Don't hide them. Involve them in them. Like I said, both my kids have been shooting since they were 6 years old. My second marriage, she had kids when I met her, and they didn't know about guns. I took them to the range. I bought them each rifles. They even sell rifles for kids. They're one shots. They take like 3 steps in order to shoot one bullet. They gotta take that bullet out, put a new one. And most kids that I know, they get bored with that rifle within a couple of times in the range. They want something better right away. Don't hide it from them. Teach them. Most of my clients that have never owned firearms, they have kids, they come to a class, then they come to a second class, and they bring their kids with them. And I go through everything safety with the kids. I show every single firearm that mom and dad has now. I bring, gallons of ice. I shoot them so they explode. I want them to see how much damage this thing can do. And I want to also teach them with a 22 that they're also fun shooting steel and hear that pling. My stepdad, he hid guns for me for years. There was a situation when I was 14 years old, and he forgot his gun. And my mom, I hear the conversation he's having with my mom. And I'm like, Mom, don't worry about it. I went to the safe, I opened it, I loaded it. I said, come on, let's take the gun to Dad. And I showed up to Dad and gave him the gun loaded. And Dad looked at me like, how do you know how to open my safe? I'm like, dude, I've known for 2 years now. I've been playing with your guns for 2 years. He finally realized.
How was that conversation?
Yeah. He was like, whoa, how did this happen? I'm like, I don't know. I just saw you open and I learned the code, and I learned how to get into it. Kill the curiosity, just kill it. I can get, my kids are 17 and 24 now. my son is proficient enough that I know something happens to me, I'm going to hand him a gun and he's going to be able to defend himself. My daughter, she's got anger issues, so she will shoot you. But I can get home, I can go home and leave my gun on the table. No, I'm not saying that everybody should do that, but my sons don't even look at it twice. You know, they've been around them. They also have that trust that if they saw something in a movie or they saw something on a video game, hey, Dad, I want to see how this is done. Can you show me? Yeah, sure. I want to load the gun and we'll play it. What do you want to know? You want to go to the range and try it? They have that, you know, that confidence that they can come up to me and ask me anything. You know, just don't hide it from them. You know, show them. You know,
I guess you just see it on the news so much, and it's I guess nerve-wracking.
Well, not only that, you know, I teach them as well. Like, what do you do if you go to a friend's house and you see a fire? You know, if you can't control the situation, walk away, go get an adult. You know, you're not only teaching your kids about firearm safety in your home, you're also giving them the tools for them to know what to do when they're at a friend's house. You know, and you're not around. Because I know about me, my kids want to have a sleepover. Oh, my guns are locked, you know, and they're locked for good. You don't know what your neighbor is doing or your daughter's best friend's dad is doing. You don't know if they're as responsible as you. So you're giving your kids that tool to know what to do with something like that happens. So don't hide it from them. Just teach them, you know, and some of the best times that we had in the range, you know, is with my son. You know, I don't bet with him anymore because he kicks my butt. You know, he's very good at long range, and you know, that's the best advice I can give you. Just don't get discouraged because you have a kid. And I'm going to ask you that question. Now you're a father. You have a family. What are you going to do if somebody breaks into your house? How are you going to protect them?
I think about it all the time. You know, I mean, I live in a gated community, fairly, you know, I would say it's fairly safe. But you know, I have thought about, you know, that because I mean, my son's room is literally on the other side of the house. And, you know, I have thought, what would I do? What could I do really? You know, and it's like, I have a knife, but I mean, you know, it's a little 4 or 5 inch knife. I mean, it's not like some machete or anything, you know, but it's like, even then, what could I really do? You know? And yeah, I've struggled with that back and forth. And I also don't think my wife would probably be on board with that if I was to say, hey, I'm going to get a gun. I don't know how that conversation would go. I'll have to ask her tonight and then I'll get back to
the range.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I have the same issues. My wife, bring it to the range. Most women shoot better than guys.
Really?
You know, women
probably have more patience than us.
women absorb information better than we do. That's a fact. You know, I remember I had a couple that came to a class of mine, and the husband couldn't hit anything, and he was the only student that I couldn't get him to progress. I remember him because he's the only one that I've had. I've always seen people progress in my classes. This guy, he just couldn't. But his wife was really, really good with the firearms. So I trained them both, and I told them, if something happens, you call 911 and give the gun to your wife. You know, and she was like, I hate guns. I don't like guns. One of my surgeon's wife, she was in my class last Saturday. She doesn't like guns. Even me fire right next to her, she jumps. The end of the class, she's firing and she's having a good time and she's smiling. There's a big old picture of her with, you know, a smile from ear to ear. You know, most people is the fear, what they've seen on the news, what they've seen about kids. You know, they don't see the other side of it. You know, so you got to open your eyes and not forcefully, just, you know, put it up for conversation. Like, hey, you know, what if this happened? Or what if this happened? You know, I will feel really bad as a husband that I can't protect my own family. Right. You know, I would like to learn how to protect not only me, you as well. I'm not home every day. You're by yourself. You have my son with you. You know, you should be able to protect yourself as well. You know, it's that peace of mind that I'm not expecting the worst, but I'm also prepared for it.
Do you ask people, like, you know, when it's well, I guess it's the first day, but it's only a 1-day class, right?
Yeah, most of my classes are 1 day.
Do you normally start off with asking them why they want to get their license?
Yeah.
And what's the most popular response, or what's the typical responses?
That crime is on the rise.
Mm.
And I told them crime statistically is lower than it was in the 90s. It's just that we're exposed to it more. Before in the 90s, if somebody got killed, if you didn't read it on the paper, you didn't see it on 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock news, you didn't know about it. Now there's a video on Facebook. Now there's a video on YouTube. So everybody is seeing all these things that I've been seeing since I was 18. They're just seeing them now because we're exposed to social media.
Yeah, it's actually kind of what you said, how you saw it every day as a law enforcement officer. We see it every day as Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And so it's essentially like we're seeing what you guys have been seeing this whole time.
Mm-hmm. And that created an anxiety, especially with the pandemic. Everybody was locked home. Nobody could go out. Nobody could do anything. And the best way I can describe it is, think about this for a second. How people kill themselves in a Black Friday over $100 off TV from $100 markup.
Yeah.
They raised it $100, they deducted $100, and everybody's killing themselves from a Taiwan Acme brand TV.
Right.
Now imagine food, water, things of that nature that run out. How are people going to act?
Well, we saw that during the pandemic when
look at Katrina. You
can only buy 2 packs of this or whatever. And luckily, I mean, we were able to at least always have food and water. But yeah, imagine if the grocery stores for 1 week didn't have any food or water. Like, yeah, I bet you crime.
And people call us preppers because we prepare for the worst. And you're paranoid, thinking that the government is going to collapse or take over your guns. No, we're not talking about the government. We're talking about a national disaster.
Yeah.
Something as simple as the highest spot in Florida is about 60, 80 feet above water. We have a tsunami here. Water is going to reach the land. What are people going to do at that moment? I'm not wanting something bad to happen, but I'm prepared if something happens.
Sure.
Something as simple as a natural disaster, a hurricane Cat 5, God forbid, something bad happens. You just can't depend like, the government's going to bring me food, or the government is going to look what happened in Maria in Puerto Rico. Those people spend, helicopters have to drop MREs from, the sky because they couldn't reach anybody. That didn't happen in Florida. It happened in Katrina. It happened in New Orleans. Right. I worked security in New Orleans. One of the worst things that I saw in my life was just patrolling a street with a boat and seeing a gator eating a dead body.
Oh,
that was real life.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie. People were starving to death. People didn't have water. This is the United States, and it was in modern times. It's something as simple as that. Now imagine a Black Friday. Now imagine a natural disaster. What are you going to do? You got to be able to protect yourselves. There's a reason why the state of Florida has a law that hurricane or state of emergency, you don't even need a license to carry a gun. They're already they're foreseeing a problem, that they can't control. Mm-hmm. So state of emergency here in Florida, you don't even need a license to carry a firearm. You can just carry a firearm anywhere you go.
Yeah. And I was actually looking, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think there's like some cities where there's actually a law saying that they require that you carry a firearm, but they don't, or own a firearm, but they don't really actively enforce it. But it's like actually a law.
There's a few cities. We're talking small cities,
rural.
Small cities.
And it's funny too. Isn't it the cities or states with the most strict gun laws are typically the ones with the highest crime?
Yeah. Look at Chicago, look at California, Illinois, California, New York, Puerto Rico, for example. Puerto Rico has one of the strongest. You can't even own a gun in Puerto Rico without a license. You can't even buy ammunition without a license. And they got more there's a place that I used to patrol that we nicknamed Vietnam because they have so many full AK-47s, that we just named it Vietnam. It was just
so the criminals have guns without licenses, most likely.
You can't legislate evil away. It doesn't work that way. We I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to break the law. So I follow, federal laws and state laws, but criminals don't care. In Chicago, they just cross state lines and go to Indiana, pick up some guns and bring them to Chicago. New York is the same way. How many shootings have we seen in New York lately? Everybody's getting shot in New York these days. You can't even carry a gun with more than 8 bullets, I believe, in New York. New Jersey is the same thing. California, how much crime California has right now? They're breaking into stores and just blatantly just taking stuff. I saw a video the other day in traffic. Some guy got out of a car, smashed the rear window, grabbed a bag, and just got out of the car in traffic and just stood there in traffic. And those are highly regulated states. You can't legislate evil away. It doesn't work that way.
So what would be your advice if someone said, okay, I'm going to get a handgun. There's obviously a ton to choose from. How would you advise them on how to pick the right gun for them? Because, I guess if you go to, when you buy a gun, do you get to try it out first? Or
not in most places. That's why I highly recommend somebody to find an instructor and get training, even before you get a firearm. Because, for example, in my classes, and I know several instructors do the same thing, we have several firearms. We have from strike fire, double action, single action, double action only, single action only. We have revolvers, we have pocket pistols, mid-sized pistol, large-size pistol. So there's not an exact answer to that. First of all, it's got to be a reliable brand. You got brands like Glock, Smith & Wesson, 6 Hours, CC, FN, brands that have been around forever and they have proven throughout the years to be reliable. You start saving money because you want to save a couple of $100 and you buy a Taurus, or you buy a SCCY, or you buy a High Point. They're cheap crap. First of all, you need something that is reliable. Second, you need something that you can manipulate all the functions of the firearm without losing your grip. So if you have a firearm that you have to lose your grip to activate the magazine release or activate the slide lock, it doesn't work for you. But if you have a firearm that you just manipulate and everything is within reach in your thumb, that's a firearm for you. It has to be comfortable in your hands. You have to be able to grip it properly. So if you can't get a class, go to a gun store and try different brands. Try different types of firearms. So for example, CC, they make steel guns. They're all metal and they're heavy. They have low recoil. They also make plastic polymer guns. They're lighter. They have more recoil. So you fire something that a Glock 43 that is yay small and it's just a pocket carry. You're trading something off for something else. Right. Like the smaller you go, the more recoil you're gonna have. The more concealable they are.
Some of the triggers are different too. Because I went with a buddy of mine. He took me to the fire range. It was actually the only time I've ever been. And he had this, it was a little gun. I don't even know what it was, just really tiny. And to pull the trigger, it's like you had to pull it so far back. And then it was like pop. And it's like, I don't like that, But the big gun he had, you shot that thing and it was like, it was like, okay, well, I don't like that either, So you got to find something you're comfortable with.
What works for you? What's the purpose of it? Are you looking for something that is for home defense only? Are you looking for something that is going to be a carry gun and a home defense gun? Or are you just looking for something to carry outside? All depends. I have different firearms for different days, but I'm proficient with all of them. I got a pocket carry that if I go to Walgreens at 11 o'clock at night just to pick up milk, I'm not going to put a full belt and a full holster, but I have a little 357, that I can put in my pocket and go around. If I'm going out at night, I want something bigger. I want something with a little bit of light on it and a little bit more magazine capacity. If I want something that works from home and work on the outside, you want something like a Glock 19 that is mid-sized, that you can still conceal it. You can still keep it at home, have a light on it. I'm very emphatic about if you have a weapon for personal defense, you must have a light on it. And it's not about putting a light on later on. No, always have that gun with a light on it. Get a holster for it, and that's your everyday carry.
You said a light?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it different shooting with a light?
Nah.
No? Oh.
It's the same thing. For example, this is my personal carry right here.
Don't get my video banned.
and of course, when you checking firearms, you want to make sure they're all loaded, they don't have any magazine. So, this is my personal carry, and I have a holster for it as well. The holster is made specifically for this gun with this light. So I always have a light on this gun.
It's underneath.
Yeah, it's underneath it. So it's just, a finger touch away. So if I encounter myself in a situation at night, I'm always going to have a light. I also have a holster for it, that is just specifically made for that gun. Times change, technology changed. Now we use Kydex holsters. These holsters are made specifically for each gun. I can't fit another one in it, but it's a one-time investment. You pay for one holster and you have it forever. Not only that, you need a good carry belt as well. Something that, you need a belt that doesn't bend. If you carry this on a regular leather belt that is malleable, the weight of the gun is going to push the gun outside. So it's going to print more in your shirt. You have a proper belt, it just keeps it tight to your body. So anything that is personal defense, I always have a light on it. I got one of my ARs that is this is one of my personal defense ARs. Again.
This video is so getting banned.
So I got this light right here. Whenever I need to use this rifle, it's got a light, attached to it at all times. If it's not for personal defense, I don't care for not having a light. If it's for personal defense, I want a light on it, because something happens at night, you will not have time to put a light on the gun, or that thing of back in the 90s we used to shoot with one hand and put a light on the other. It's technology has changed. Now you can just attach the light to the rail of the gun and just carry your light around.
Now let's say someone broke into your house, you're not home, and you forgot to put that gun away and they stole it. Are you responsible for that, or do you just report it as something that's stolen? Or like, what if
I've never seen a problem with the gun being stolen. I've never seen anybody get charged for it, to my knowledge.
What if they shot someone and then they look at the gun and they see it's registered to you?
Oh, they will call you. They will find out. For example, I always recommend, if you're gonna sell a gun, the law doesn't require you to do so, but have some type of paperwork. I have a perfect example. I sold a Glock 17 like 10 years ago. I sold it on Gun Broker. By law, I can't ship it to you. It's like an eBay of guns. You go there, you purchase. I was going to
ask you if there was some type of platform for selling, since you obviously can't do it on Marketplace.
Yeah, Gun Broker, you can. It's like an eBay just for guns. You bid on it. They got reserves. You can buy it now, pay for it now. It's funny how politicians say, "Oh, you can buy a gun online." True,
they just can't ship it.
They can't ship it to you. They got to ship it from their dealer to another dealer. So you got to go to your dealer and fill out the paperwork. You got to fill out the 4473 form. You got to go through the background and you got to get all that. So I sold a gun in Gun Broker about 10 years ago. About 3 years ago, I get a phone call from a trooper in Tallahassee. And I know I sold it somewhere in Pennsylvania, because I shipped it to a gun shop in Pennsylvania. And the trooper called me and said, like, do you own a Glock 17 so model, and this color and this attachment? I'm like, yeah. Why are you calling me? Oh, because was the gun stolen? I'm like, no, I actually sold it. But since I was the original purchaser of the gun, that's what ATF had as the original owner of the firearm. Somehow ATF lost the paperwork down the line, and it happens a lot when it gets sold several times. They lose track of who has it at that point. Shouldn't be, but that's government for you. So he asked me if the gun was stolen. I said, no, I sold the gun to somebody in Pennsylvania. I ship it on Gun Broker. I ship it from dealer to dealer. I'm pretty sure I can find the paperwork, because they have to keep track of all that paperwork. And he said, and I asked him, why you asked me? And he said, well, because we pulled over 3 felons in Tallahassee, and one of them had your gun. So that means the gun is stolen from somebody else. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's not mine. But wait a minute, yeah, it got stolen, so I can get it back. And he just laughed. Yeah. And I'm like, let's go back. Yeah, it was stolen, and he had the gun back. Apparently, the gun got stolen in Pennsylvania and ended up back in Florida. Since I had paperwork that I sold it, the trooper was like, okay, now it's evidence, against these people. So if you sell it to somebody, keep track of it. Make sure at least you get a driver's license number and a name, who you sold it to. But I've never seen anybody get charged because somebody stole a firearm, to be honest with you. I don't leave firearms in my house if I'm not there. I have a safe, and nowadays with technology, now they have even shells that look like just put flowers on top,
and then
you
it
have
like
a
drops
magnet,
down.
you move it and it just drops down.
Yeah.
You have photos that you just open and the gun is right there. So nightstands, tables, there's so many things nowadays that you can use to hide a firearm. There's no need for you to leave it outside. If I'm home, there's a firearm around. If I'm not home, everything is locked and whatever I have is with. I just don't leave. I don't believe in leaving guns in the car as well. We're in Florida. You pretty much can break into any truck.
Broke into.
You gotta assume there's a gun in there.
Right.
So if there's negligence or somebody gets hurt with it, yeah, people. There's a statute in Florida that actually requires you to store your firearms. They don't tell you in which manner you have to store it, but you do have to store it, especially if you have minors younger than 16 years old. By law, you have to have somewhere that you can store that firearm.
Okay. So we'll wrap up with this. I know you said you had sponsors, and I saw like you have different products on your website. What kind of stuff do you sell that people could purchase from you? Or
we sell Glock triggers. Is one of my sponsors. Ranger Proof. Ranger Proof is an American company. There are a bunch of Army Rangers that open several companies. They make slings. Slings is stuff like this just to carry your rifles. They make several types of them. They also make triggers for Glocks. Not aftermarket triggers. They don't reduce the poundage of the trigger, because there's one thing: people have the tendency of getting their concealed weapons firearms and customizing them, and I tell them, don't do that. Most personal defense scenario is going to be somewhere around 10 to 15 feet. You don't need a special trigger for that. And if we learn anything from the Zimmerman case that we saw on TV, they're going to take that gun and they're going to take it apart, and they're going to check what you did to it, what you attached to it. Plus they're going to take it away from you. I see these people buying these $3,000 guns for personal carry. Like, if you shoot somebody, they're going to take it away from you, right? So I want something that is in the mid range that I can be okay to release it for a year or so and get it back later.
Right. That's a good point.
So we make fun. Like, somebody breaks into my house, I'm like, give me a second. I'm gonna get the cheapest gun that I have in my house so I can shoot you with it. Because I don't want them to take my $6,000 rifle.
Yeah.
So Ranger Proof makes a trigger that just takes the slack of the Glock trigger. It just makes it a little bit better without changing the mechanism or altering anything on the firearm. So far, that's all I have as far as sponsors in my website.
Okay.
I am coming with new holsters for most common firearms. I do sell insurance as well for firearm legal protection. If you need insurance because you just purchased a firearm and you want to have that protection of having a lawyer when you go talk to the police, I sell that as well.
Okay. And we'll put all this in the show notes too, so people can get in contact with you. If they're watching, they're like, oh,
I appreciate it.
We'll put that. And then tell everyone the website again.
It's defensivetrainingsolution.com.
Defensivetrainingsolution.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see all of his awards, and you can see everything on there, and, and sign up for a class. How often do you do the class? Oh, and, where do you typically do the class? Like, what you said, Lake Wales?
I have a range in Lake Wales, and I have one in Lake Nona.
Lake Nona. Okay.
People don't realize that before Lake Nona was built, we had a range there. So it's called Central Florida Rifle and Pistol Club.
Okay.
It's one of the best clubs in the state of Florida, to be honest with you. Not because it's my club, but because they're sponsors. We're a non-profit club. So we have a board of directors, and basically when you become a full member, you're actually part owner of the property. So you do have a vote on the club. It's not like they do anything. You can go to a meeting and propose stuff, and it goes for a vote. We're non-profit, so we're not greedy about making money. We put money back into the kids. We have a junior program that I'm part of. We have kids from 12 to 18 that they compete. We sponsor all of them. We give them guns. I think the only thing they pay for is ammunition. We have amazing kids that we've seen from 12 years old. Now they're pilots, and now they're, going to law school and things like that. Someone became law enforcement, someone went into the military. It's a great club. I like to teach there. When I'm teaching more advanced classes, I go to Lake Wales because we have more barricades there. We have more leadways, orange groves around us, so we don't have properties around us. So it's less restricted for me to teach classes, and I can be more aggressive with it. But that's more advanced classes. Most of the basic classes in law enforcement, I teach in Lake Wales. Whenever I teach Pasco County narcotics or Polk County narcotics teams, that I do teach those guys every 6 months, I take them over there. Basic classes, rifle, pistol, I just use in Central Florida Rifle and Pistol Club in Daytona.
Now, if someone wants to go to the class, do they need their own firearm, or do you have firearms that they can use if they don't have one?
Yeah, if it's a basic course, I can provide all firearms. And like I said, I bring all kinds of things so they can try, different from a pocket pistol to a full size. I bring everything from them. For example, I got a class on the 23rd that is a concealed weapons class, but it's also a basic pistol course after. So we spend 4 hours in the classroom. We learn all about do's and don'ts, Florida statutes, where you can carry, where you cannot carry, what are the things that you should do, if you put yourself in that position, how you interact with law enforcement, reciprocity states, which states you can bring your firearm, and the license of Florida applies to that state as well. And then after that class, we go to the range and they go through basic, course of firearms. At least they know how to manipulate a firearm, how to shoot it, how to, grip it properly, all those things. I don't like just teaching CCW classes and give me 2 shots. All right, sign you off. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel responsible enough doing that. And it's a very unpopular opinion in my industry. Most people would just want the money. I can't sign you off. Just here, find me 2 rounds and off you go. I need to know that at least you learn something and you know how to, safely manipulate a fire without being safe to you and those around you. So I have those 2 courses in one. So it's a 6-hour class, and people seem very happy. They keep coming back and they keep sending friends. I have more advanced courses. Those courses, you do need a holster, you need your own firearm, because you're going to train what you carry every day.
Right. Okay, makes sense.
So I got several courses. I got basic rifle, advanced rifle, basic pistol, advanced pistol, CCW classes, family classes as well. I have families that come, mom, dad, both kids. They all want to get into it together. So I offer a more personal service. So I can tailor my classes, to my clients.
Gotcha. And would you recommend, if someone said, look, I do not want to have a gun, I don't want to own it, I don't want to carry it, but I would like to go through the course just to get some basic knowledge and just to, experience firing a gun, would you recommend them go through the class? Do you get people that do that say, I don't want to own the gun, but I want to go through the course?
Actually, the most beautiful thing happened to me the other day. Last month, I had 2 kids that they were both 19 years old. And I knew they were 19. They showed up to my class. And I didn't say anything because I check IDs when they get to the class. So I got to make a certificate for them. And I left them for the last section of the class, and I put them aside. I was like, what are you guys doing here? You guys can't buy a gun for the next 2 years. I said, like, yeah, we know. We just wanted to learn the laws and the do's and don'ts before we actually purchase a firearm. I gave those kids a free class. And I told them, when you get your gun, call me, and I'm going to hook you up as well. Because you don't see that enough from people.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not just buying a gun, it's knowing. Like, some people don't know they can't walk into a school with a firearm. Some people don't know that if a legislator or a senator is right next to you doing a conference, that's considered a legislature session right there. You can't have a firearm right next to them. So people don't know that you can cross state lines. People don't know that you can fly with firearms. They don't know all these things, and all these things you learn in a class. They don't know the difference between a full metal jacket round that is just for plinking versus a personal defense round, hollow point bullet that is meant to expand and create more energy to stop a body. There's so many things that people don't know, and they just.
And I'm learning so much just talking to you. Do you think, and I could only imagine the media response if this were to happen, but what do you think if they were to try to propose this to be a class taught to high school students as part of like their curriculum?
The funny thing is that we had it when we were kids. Back in the day, I remember when I was in college, we used to drive around with shotguns in our trucks. We all had shotguns in the parking lot. I shot my first 22 in the junior ROTC program on my high school. We had those things implemented. Throughout the years, it just became something taboo that people didn't want to be part of it. And things change, but it used to be our way of life. We're not talking in the 40s or 50s. We're talking as far back as the 80s.
What do you think the media response would be, though, if they said, okay,
Oh,
Seminole County's gonna propose that a gun class is a requirement to graduate, just for the benefit of everyone learning the do's and don'ts, safety, things like that?
Nah, it's not going to work too well. Everybody's going to be up in arms about it. Look what happened right now with the new bill that prohibits, them teaching about sexuality for kids, younger than third grade. They dubbed it the "Don't Say Gay" bill. There's nothing that says "Don't Say Gay" bill in that bill whatsoever, but they twist it. And you got to understand that nowadays people get information in minutes at a time. They don't sit down and they read a bill. They don't sit down and they read a newspaper or a full article. They get a video here on YouTube or a video on Facebook, and that's what they observe. Would I like to see it? Yeah. I think most of these shootings will not happen with these kids. I think we have a mental issue problem with kids nowadays. Parents are not paying attention to their kids. I don't see how that happened. I pay attention to my kids and I know, if they're okay or not. For some reason, we stopped being parents and we delegated that into the school system. And that's why all these problems are happening nowadays.
What do you think about the teachers carrying guns?
I'm on the fence about that. It worked well for pilots. But the reason it worked well for pilots is because pilots had a mandatory training that they have to assist in order to become certified to carry a firearm in the cockpit. If those same safety measures are done with teachers, I don't have a problem with it. Again, law enforcement can be everywhere at all times.
Right.
I feel with all these school shootings, I feel safe that I knew my son's resource officer for that school. I even gave him training for free.
You want to make sure he was very prepared.
I want to make sure that he was prepared. And I gave him my cards like, listen, you need training. I know your training is cookie cutter from the academy. You guys don't get anything else extra. I'm willing to teach you. I feel safe that there was a deputy there. I don't have a problem with them being armed because times are changing and you got to adjust with times. These kids are very exposed to things that we were not exposed to that age. Now with the click of a button, they can see things that we didn't learn until we were like late teens, early 20s. So I'm on the fence of it. I'm okay with it as long as they implemented a good training program for them.
My biggest fear was kind of my fear that the teacher would put it in the drawer or put it somewhere, not have it locked, and then a student would get it and then something bad happened, or two students want to fight each other. They know all the teachers have a gun and they try to get the gun from the teacher. I mean, that was my only reservation. But if I had to pick, I would support them. But then you have some people who are like, I don't want to carry it, and so does every teacher or just the ones that want to, or
that's the thing. The pilot program was voluntary. Which pilot wants to do this program? They implemented a program. They have to go through that training process. They have to pass that training. It wasn't just take a training and off you go. You have to actually pass, that training. And then you got certified. You can't leave it in a box. You can't leave it anywhere. It's on you at all times. If you're on the cockpit, that gun is on you. So if it's something like that, but if you're going to have a teacher that's being forced to carry a firearm, it's not going to work because, like you said, they're going to leave it somewhere. People don't get. It takes a while to get used to carrying, a couple of pounds extra on you. especially when you start getting in your 40s and you start, developing a little bit of a belly. It's something that it takes time to get used to it.
See, I would be like, can anyone see it? Is it concealed enough? Like, what if someone says, "Hey, is that a gun?" Like,
the state of Florida says you have to attempt to conceal it. They don't say you have to be successful at it. There's some clothing that I wear that it just shows. I don't care. Most people don't notice. People that know about firearms and have been in law enforcement, they do know. I've been at the mall and I've had deputies approach me. "Hey, you got a gun on you?" "Sure do." "You want to see my license?" "Nah, you're fine." Most of them don't care. Some people notice, most people don't. I've been talking to people and, "Oh yeah, I teach class," and, "Yo, really, blah, blah, blah. And you carry?" "Yeah, right here." And they go like, "Holy crap, like you were in front of me. I didn't know you had a gun." Like, they're not looking for it. They don't know.
Right.
We're trained to look at waistbands and hands and things like that, and look for that bulge. And most people don't have that training. So
I'm sure you probably get some people that, just lose their minds if they see someone with a gun and just completely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can see that happening too. Well, man, this has been awesome talking to you.
It's my pleasure.
I was so excited for this episode. I literally had so many questions and, I learned so much, because, just there was so many questions that I had and just wanted your opinion and things on. So I'm going to have to talk to the wife, see if she'll let me go down and take the course but yeah, it's been an awesome episode. I really appreciate you coming on. We'll put all your socials. What socials are you on? We'll put the links and everything, but what's
I got Instagram, I got Facebook, it's Charlie Gautier Competitive Shooter. Instagram is Charlie Gautier 1. I got TikTok if they let me have it.
If you still have it, yeah.
Charlie Gautier 2. I got YouTube, Charlie Gautier. Everything is under my name. It's Charlie Gautier. It's not a very common last name. I think I'm the only Puerto Rican with a French last name. So it has worked out for me just using my name.
Okay. Yeah. We'll put all the links down in there. And if you're interested in taking one of his courses, or if you have a question, hit him up on social media. He's been an awesome guest, and we'll definitely have to have you back on again. And, maybe if the wife lets me take the course, we can come have you back on and we can talk about what I thought of the course and everything. So, but
I'll be glad to have you on board.
What's that?
I'll be happy to have you on board.
Yes, definitely. So, all right. Well, that's going to be the end for this episode. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, go over to his channel too, subscribe before it gets shut down. And so hopefully this episode doesn't get shut down. I'm already thinking when you put up the rifle, I'm like, oh, that would be a great thumbnail. So I really want to appreciate it. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right. Thanks.